So our first question comes from the chat. This is from a regular here at the show, Stephen Light. Always appreciate Stephen and his donations to the BWI YouTube channel and BWI Live. He says, Iowa boards think they can catch us early in the season, meaning Penn State, with an inexperienced quarterback. Lucky scheduling for them. How many games does it take a rookie quarterback to settle in? Fitz, what do you think in terms of can Drew Allar be ready by game 3, which I think is underrated against Illinois and their ability to play on defense, and then especially Iowa with what we know they are year in and year out?
I usually go with 4 games to settle in. I go with the Trace theory in that he had a rough first month of his starting career. Seemed to settle in okay. Did some good things eventually, and we're not sure whatever happened to that guy. But no, he's. I think Drew's going to have that ability to. You start at home. You have the. I don't want to say scrimmage because that's not fair to these guys, but you've got those non-conference games or they got the non-conference game to lead up to the Iowa game. West Virginia, I don't think it's going to be very good. I think you're going to have an opportunity to throw it around a little bit and maybe get him some confidence, maybe push the ball down the field. Like I can see an argument where it's like, okay, go run the ball because you've got these running backs. You're phenomenal, whatever. But it's also at the same point with Iowa waiting in a couple of weeks from there, you have an opportunity to have him throw the ball, to make him put him in a position where he has to make some decision throws instead of just some timing throws and things like that. So I think that they'll push that against West Virginia, and they have the opportunity to do so. So I typically say September, and then you get comfortable by October. I don't know that Penn State's going to have that luxury. We're going to see what Iowa brings to the table. They've kind of retooled their roster a little bit in terms of the transfer portal, so not completely sure what they bring to the table right now, but I think it's going to be kind of in that right in between there where you think he can be ready and where you're going to have to be ready.
Yeah, those fully looking at the schedule for the first time a couple weeks ago, that third and fourth game is rough, especially given the nature of those teams that are defensive oriented and that do things that make veteran quarterbacks struggle. I mean, what Brett Bielema has done at Iowa or at Illinois, to me, they're the biggest wild card because they just had 4 defensive backs drafted in, I think, the first 4 rounds. So they were quality players at Illinois last year. Can they reload? And does their defense kind of boost the play at that position? Because if you've got a good secondary, you got to have that quarterback dialed in so he's not throwing the ball to the other team. And we still need to know some of Drew's personality. Like, is he going to force the ball into certain looks? Is he going to get fooled by stuff? And that's what this first month is for him to figure out as well. But that Iowa game, I think that by that point, if things have gone well, I think you're right, Fitz. He can have the opportunity to play to what his talent level is more so than, what is being dictated by the situation.
Yeah, you're more looking at the road trip to Illinois. Like, as you mentioned there, like coaches, I don't want to say coach differently, but you pucker up a little bit when you go on the road with a new quarterback. We've seen that before. So that's the one. Like at Iowa, I think Penn State will be able to run the ball enough and be fine with that and get out and score enough points to beat an Iowa team. But Illinois is tricky. Like that's a good coach over there. Like he does some really, really good things in terms of running the football, shortening the game as they've done in the past. Still think you're going to have the advantage there, but like Illinois is a little bit, in my mind, if I'm putting those two beside each other, Illinois a little bit trickier than Iowa, especially specifically because it's on the road.
Yeah, that's we'll see. There's going to be a lot of things that happen early in the season. Poncho 570 asks, how far out is Penn State from having a 2 deep at both inside and tackle along the offensive line where the talent gap isn't so dramatic? We talked about this a little bit when we were doing the top 5 list, but they're kind of there right now, aren't they, Fitz?
I think they're there right now. The question is going to be where they're at next year.
Yes.
Because you're losing 1, 2, 3, 4 guys probably up front, and that kind of is going to make a difference there. I don't think the gap is that big at certain positions. You've got 3 tackles that can play. You've got 2 or 3 positions where you're fairly close on the inside. I think center and right guard are pretty well solidified. Where you've got Tengwall and Nelson going out at left guard. So you've got positions where you actually feel that those guys are close, and you feel good about playing 8 guys this year, 7 or 8 guys this year, and that they're going to have to do that because of injuries and things of that nature.
If you had your druthers, you'd probably say that you'd want an additional tackle. Like if you wanted to be too deep somewhere, I would say tackle, and that's more of the projected long term. They've got 3 guys that you feel really good about on the roster, but they have so much. They have a saturation of talent on the inside. You might want to say Javen Williams and Alex Birchmeyer, both those guys work out at tackle, and then you've got that depth to flex inside, as we've talked about on the recruiting show. So maybe it's a little balanced in versus out, but at the same time, as we talked about on the show the whole time, you don't have a 2 deep all time. James Franklin even said, like, you'd love to have 2 deep that works out perfectly, 2 left tackles, 2 left guards, all the way down the line. Nobody has that. Nobody can keep that when they have it. So right now, this is the year where they're probably going to be at their peak. So hopefully it all works out for them, because it's the future is never guaranteed. Next question here. This is from Blackheart8541. He says, how much does an official visit move the needle for a prospect? We hear about a lot of prospects saying they love X school, but then they want to wait to take an official visit. So what is it about the official visit that's so special, and how much does it move the needle? This is a perfect question for you, Fitz.
Well, the official visit is romanticized. Like, this is something that kids look forward to when they start the process, to have the ability to take an official visit, because not everybody can take an official visit. To have the ability to do so is something that you look forward to, especially since they've moved it forward to June, the spring and the summer. So you're in this window right now in May where the guys that have committed in the spring, we're going to commit in the spring. The guys that, think that they're close, they have reason to wait. Like, they have the ability to wait. How much does it move the needle when you get on campus? Like that, it depends on the kid. Obviously, depends how much they've been to campus. There's a lot of guys that have been to campus, and an official visit won't be that much different, won't be as different as they think it is than an official visit, or than an unofficial visit. So you've got the ability to wine them, dine them, take them around, everything like that. And it's not going to be that much different to Jalen Harvey, who's been here a dozen times, the guys of that nature. Where it differs is guys that you're bringing in from out of the region, guys that have never been here, guys that have that opportunity for their first look at Penn State to be that glitz and glamour official visit, all that kind of stuff. We've seen guys come in after one official visit. So like, I don't know that you're playing percentages here, but like, you're more likely, if you haven't seen it before, to be blown away by an official visit. You're more likely on the other side, if you've been here a bunch, to say the official visit was really good. It wasn't much different than I'm used to, but it was really good. Does that change the long run? I think not as much as people would think, but that's kind of just comes down to the kid and their sense of familiarity and which other schools they get to visit, in June. I think that's the important thing, is that window slams shut on June 24th, 23rd, 24th, something like that this year. So that's when you sort of draw a line in the sand and have this decision that you need to make by either late June or July, because you want to get involved with your high school season. You want to get focused and shut things down. So that's kind of where they're at with that. We're in this lull in May. It's going to shoot up in June, late June, early July, and then it's going to go back down in August.
Is it kind of like the prom? Like you're like, for example, like you go to the prom, you get all dressed up at the photo shoots, you get the wining and dining like you mentioned. But for me, like, our prom was still in the cafeteria at the high school, so it wasn't like it was this massively different thing. But at the same time, there is that air of, this is the official exciting thing. Is that kind of, even if you've seen the school a bunch of times, you still want to go on your official visit because it's like the prom.
Yeah, sure. We can go with that. That's great. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, never really thought of it like that. I'll put it like that.
Yeah. Sometimes you make a comparison, doesn't always work out. The Fennec Fox asks, perhaps too simple, but the timeline for Cephas, we talked about this earlier in the show, realistic, and just kind of cement this, he is going to be a guy they expect to start and play significant snaps. Do you think he starts from day one in this situation where he arrives now?
I think it's certainly possible. Yeah, I think that's kind of the expectation that they have for him. As I said, Malik McLean was the guy that you bring in to develop, and Cephas was the guy that you came in as the Band-Aid to start right away, kind of like Tinsley did. So I think it is realistic for him to do that. It's been interesting because he did not have the spring. He did not have spring football. He was training on his own. He was, kind of left up to getting himself ready, and that's, he did some other things, went to California to train, things like that. So like he's been doing that stuff, but he's gonna have to start it up pretty quick. Like there's going to be a lot that's thrown to him this summer. He's going to have to get that route tree down, get the playbook down, and things like that. But I think it is realistic. He's been a really good receiver at that level, and I think he's going to have the ability to translate that to the Big Ten.
And I think what the conversation coming out of the Blue White game was, and Amari Evans showed something so that he can be a part of the conversation. It doesn't have to all just be on Cephas. So you can have two guys at that position that are, I'm not going to say similar. You still want Cephas to be the guy, but you do have another guy that can come in and help